The Common Ground World competition happening on July 30th, 2024 will feature yet another Starlight Market Box meta, once again with new craft requirements. I may also refer to this one as the Paint Market Box since it involves crafting 3 different colors of paint, which are the new items for this competition. The craft requirements for the July 30th, 2024 version of the Starlight Market Box are 1 yellow paint, 1 blue paint, 1 red paint, 1 eco paper, and 1 wooden box. It is crafted in the boxing facility with a craft time of 60 seconds and stored in the warehouse. For this competition, this paint market box will give 50,000 stars for each one sold. Red, blue, and yellow paint is crafted in the stationery shop, and all of which require a water drum, so having a water pump nearby to supply a passive water drum will be ideal. They also all require 2 flour and 1 glue. Red paint requires 8 strawberries, blue paint requires 8 blueberries, and yellow paint requires 8 corn. The craft time for any of the paint colors is 60 seconds, and they are all stored in a warehouse. The trade time for this competition is 20 seconds with a 1 gasoline cost per trade. The starting layout provided for this competition is a forest biome facing east with 1 river on the north side. You do start with everything you need to craft ceramic bowls, which includes clay fields to craft clay lumps, a pottery shop with passive water drums from a water pump, and wind turbines to craft energy for the ceramic bowls being crafted at the pottery shop. The industrial workers will pick up the clay lumps and energy and take them to the warehouse. I recommend you start crafting ceramic bowls until you make 1 sale to get some cash, and then I suggest transitioning to a large scale gold production because it is easier to gather a large sum of money that way. The final design will be expensive. The cash boosts for this competition are clay lump from 300 to 900, ceramic bowls from 2,000 to 6,000, and honey from 7,500 to 22,500. The rewards for this competition are the standard Gala rewards for reaching the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard by the time the competition ends. Rewards are usually distributed directly to your account within 5 days. This is my no NFT required Starlight Market Box build showcase. It's doing 29 market box per hour. I'm going to scroll through the production monitor so you can see the production rates for everything. Then I'm going to show you the production rates for the main items involved in crafting the Starlight Market Box, which are blue paint, which is making 32 per hour, red paint at 29.5 per hour, yellow paint at 29 per hour, eco paper at 31 per hour, and wooden box at 42 per hour. Now I'm going to break down all the buildings and the crafting process. I'm going to begin by explaining the ceramic bowls. There are 3 forklifts which are in charge of picking up clay lumps from the 6 clay fields and taking it to the nearby warehouse, of which there are 3 warehouses. There are a total of 12 pottery shops crafting ceramic bowls, all of which are on a green craft timer because they are not being hit by dirty. Pottery shops are negatively impacted by dirty, so you don't want to have them near any refineries or power plants, forklifts, or any other buildings that may cast dirty on them. But they do want 2 energy in order to craft ceramic bowls. So the way this is accomplished is by building a nuclear power, which provides up to 4 passive energy and does not cast any dirty. Nuclear power is an expensive building, which makes this design expensive, along with a lot of other expensive buildings involved. Ceramic bowls also require a water drum, but this is fulfilled by having water pumps, which provide a passive water drum to the pottery shops. In total, this build utilizes 6 water pumps to provide a passive water drum to the pottery shops, stationery shops, lumber mills making lumber, and the gasoline setup. Now for the honey, honeycomb, and glue production. This will require wood, so I do have 14 logger houses in charge of collecting wood from 28 tree farms. Only one of these tree farms is on a yellow craft timer because it is being negatively impacted by 1 shade from this windmill. There are 4 lumber mills making lumber, and the lumber gets deposited in the lumber yard. There are 7 beekeepers in charge of picking up lumber and ceramic bowls and taking them to the beehives, as well as picking up the honey and honeycomb and taking it to the 1 pantry where it is stored in. There are 12 beehives in total, 4 of which are making honey, which are these right here, and the other 8 are making honeycombs. On the screen now, I'm going to post a picture on how I have the beehives rotated. That way you can see what direction they are facing. The best method to figure out which direction the beehive is facing is by paying attention to the bees or the beekeepers and seeing where they enter or exit the beehive from. The reason this is important is because it will impact the production rate of the item, and if you balance it carefully enough, you can make it where you are producing just the right amount of honey and honeycomb, preferably producing more honey than you are producing honeycomb. I'm using a total of 28 clover fields so the bees can get all the nectar that they need. There are 4 wizards workshops crafting glue, 2 of which are closer to the pantry and the other 2 are farther away. The reason I have these 2 right here is because the wizards workshop only casts 1 shade, and that way I don't have any buildings here that would cast shade on this windmill, keeping this windmill on a green craft timer. And the glue gets stored in the storehouse, of which I have 1 of them, and it is close to the stationery shops making paint. Now I'm going to explain flower production. I have 5 tractors in charge of picking up all the crops and a total of 3 wheat fields. The tractors will pick up wheat from these 2 wheat fields and bring it to this silo, which is closer to these 2 windmills. And the wheat field over here, the wheat gets picked up and taken to this silo, which is closer to these 2 windmills. So that means there are 2 silos and there are a total of 4 windmills. They all have a green craft timer because they're not being impacted by shade from any other building. This allows those windmills to craft flour on the fastest craft time of 30 seconds. Flour is stored in the storehouse just like the glue, and it is close to the stationery shops, making it faster to pick up. Now I'm going to explain red paint, blue paint, yellow paint, and eco paper. Like I mentioned before, the paint colors all require 2 flour, 1 glue, and 1 water drum. The only difference is the crops. Red paint requires strawberries, and I do have 3 strawberry fields for that, and they should get deposited in this silo here. Blue paint requires blueberries. I have 5 blueberry fields for that, and the blueberries get stored on this silo. And yellow paint requires corn. I have 2 corn fields. 1 is being impacted by 2 shade, so it crafts corn slower, but this crafts just enough corn for my production rate that I'm making here, and it gets stored in this silo. It's very important that the crops that you need for the paints are in a silo that is right next to that stationery shop. That way you can craft paint much quicker, because those stationery workers do have to make 8 trips to the silo to pick up all those crops. I have 12 bamboo farms. They all have the 9 passive water that they need to grow, and these have high craft times. That's why I have so many of them, and the bamboo shoots that get harvested from them should go on this silo. I have a total of 6 stationery shops, 1 for red paint, 1 for blue paint, and 1 for yellow paint. The other 3 stationery shops are crafting eco paper, and of course they all have the passive water drum from the water pump nearby. All the paints and eco paper get stored in the warehouse. And the last 2 things are wooden boxes and the Starlight Market Box. Wooden boxes are crafted in a lumber mill. I have 2 lumber mills in charge of doing this. They both have the 2 energy that they need. They'll pick up lumber from the lumber yard. The wood is taken by a logger directly to the lumber mill, and that means I've explained all the items required for the Starlight Market Box, which is crafted in the 1 boxing facility. I have the standard gasoline setup with 2 water pumps, 2 power plants, a refinery in between them crafting gasoline, and a refinery to the side crafting petroleum. I'm using 3 oil pumps to get all the crude oil required to craft all the gasoline that I need. The reason I have 3 forklifts is because they will be busy picking up clay lumps from the clay fields as well as the crude oil from the oil pumps. If you try to do this with 2 forklifts, you will run into an issue where you don't have enough workers picking up enough crude oil, and you may potentially run out of gasoline. And for the trade setup, I'm only using this 1 trade depot. That explains everything. I do have 1 unused spot right here. This was originally another clay field, so there would have been 7 clay fields, although you don't actually need this clay field. If you do have it, you can overproduce clay lumps and sell them for a little bit of extra cash. However, there is a chance that you might run out of gasoline. I tested this for a couple hours. I did not run out of gasoline, but I never gained extra gasoline, so better safe than sorry. I just got rid of the clay field since I knew I didn't need those extra clay lumps. But if you did want to have another clay lump to try to gather some extra cash, then you could put a clay field right here. Here's what the auto sell looks like. I have items at different sell quantities like 10, 12, or 15. I do recommend having the crops at 12. That way you have at least 2 items to spare for when you're crafting paints. If you are overproducing gasoline, you can sell it if you need a little bit of extra help getting the cash that you need to pay the wages, because you might have a problem paying your wages if you're not making enough cash. If you are overproducing wood, I do recommend that you put wood on auto sell. I don't have that issue, and I could potentially auto sell lumber if I wanted to, but I am not doing that. Here's what the build looks like on the visualizer file. Total cost shows 28.6 million, although it's actually higher than that. This doesn't account for the cost of building the steel mill and the mines in order to get the steel for the nuclear power, and it also doesn't account for the cost of clearing all the trees. So you're probably looking at somewhere north of 32 million to build everything. The wages on here are not correct either. I'm not sure why it's showing that number, but the real wages without any NFTs are closer to 32,500 per minute. Currently, each Starlight Market Box is selling for 50,000 cash. So even if you were to sell 29 per hour, you would not have enough cash to pay for the wages. Now this build is slightly overproducing honey as well as lumber and gasoline. You could sell all of those and you should be close to cash neutral, but just keep that in mind. You may want to gather some additional cash to make sure that you don't accidentally lose all your money while running this build. You can find the file for this visualizer on my Discord server, and an invite link to my Discord is in the description of the video. Once again, no NFTs are required to reach this production rate. I'm going to share some of my final thoughts for this. If you do own the full set of Enchanted Fireworks NFTs, it does have a utility that reduces the craft time of Wizards Workshops by 50%. The Fireworks NFTs cannot be turned off, so I do have this effect applied. So if you look at my Wizards Workshops, I'm crafting glue at 15 seconds. The standard craft time for this is actually 30 seconds. So what I've done is I built 4 Wizards Workshops. I really don't think you need 4. You should be fine with 3. Because I have that small advantage, I ended up making 4 just in case. You should have no problem at all making all the glue that you need with 4 Wizards Workshops. But like I said, you might only need 3, so I would try to see if 3 works with a 30-second craft time. Another thing is the windmills. I decided to only use green timer windmills for this. At first, I only used 3 green timer windmills and it was making almost all the flour I needed. I believe I was making enough flour to get 28 Starlight Market Boxes per hour instead of the 29 that it's making now, or sometimes 30. But if you do want to go beyond that 28 Starlight Market Boxes per hour, you are going to need either another windmill on a green craft timer, or maybe just a red craft timer windmill if you want to have it in another spot, so long as you're not accidentally casting shade on these other windmills that are supposed to be on a green craft timer. So just keep that in mind. As always, pay attention to the way you rotate your buildings. It may improve or hurt your production rate depending on what you're doing. For example, the silos, I do have them facing the road. That way both of these stationary shops can get to the silo at the same amount of time. Same thing for this one over here. So what I mean by this here is if you were to rotate the silo facing one of the stationary shops, like the one crafting red paint, it would probably improve your production rate of the red paint, but it would hurt the production of the blue paint. So you would want to keep it facing the road. Now what you could do over here, you could actually have this stationary shop face this silo, and it will help with the production rate of yellow paint. It shouldn't hurt the production rate on the eco paper. This is actually more than enough stationary shops to craft all the eco paper that you need. So you could potentially do this this if you're having issues making enough yellow paint. Like if you see that you have more blue and red paint but not enough yellow paint, then you could do that and it might improve your production rate. And just be very careful with the way you rotate the beehives, because I think this is going to be the main issue for people. They're not going to be able to perfectly balance the honey and honeycomb that they need to get all the glue that they need for their final production rates, and one wrong rotation can completely throw it off. So just be very careful with this. Make sure you are rotating all the beehives in a way that you would like them to be rotated to carefully balance your production rates. That's going to be it for the build showcase. So let me know if you found this helpful or informative, or what you thought about the beginning of the video since I changed it up a little bit. Please leave a like, consider leaving a comment, subscribing. If you wish to support the channel, you can find links on the description on how to do so. And as always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.